Let's set up the lighting. Let's start by creating a V-Ray sun. So go to your lights, change that to V-Ray and create a V-Ray sun like this. Right, and choose yes to this question here to create the V-Ray sky in the environment slot. Right now I'm gonna bring the sky. Now I'm gonna bring the sun up. And let's leave it like that. Now let's set up V-Ray for some test renderings. Okay, so let's go step by step. So first we want to enable the built-in frame buffer. Right. Then we want to disable the anti-aliasing filter. Okay. Let's change the DMC sampler to subdues. Right, check the color mapping settings, set the type to exponential, enable subpixel mapping, change the gamma to 2.2, and let's move on to the indirect illumination. Alright, so first I'm going to turn it on. I'm also going to turn on the ambient occlusion, and then I'm going to set up my GI engines. So the first one is a radiance map and the second one should be light catch. So for radiance map, let's use a very low preset, something like 30 subdues and 20 samples. Disable the multipass and set the light cache to a low value like 300 or so. Okay, that's good for now. I'm moving on to the settings. Change the adaptive amount to 1. This will make it a bit faster and increase the noise threshold to 0.015. Alright. And you also want to set the memory type to dynamic and increase the memory limit to match your RAM size or make it slightly smaller than the amount of your RAM. So I have 24 gigabytes, I'm going to set it to 20,000. And that's fine. Alright. Let's select our camera. And check the settings here. Alright, so I'm going to change the white balance to neutral, just to get rid of any color tint. And I'm going to reduce the shutter speed to a lower value like 25 or so, just to adjust the exposure for the interior scene. Okay, and now I want to create some skylight portals in the windows. So I'm going to select the windows and I'm going to isolate them. And then just create some V-Ray lights, snapping to these corners here. Okay, move the lights over here, mirror them to point towards the room instead of outside. And move them just in front of the window, like this. It's fine. And set the lights to skylight portal and enable simple. And same for the other light. Right. Next we're going to create some V-Ray lights for the side windows. Again, create a light. Go on to the next one, and finally the fourth. Okay, from the top viewport, adjust the position like this, and just in front the window frames, right here. Let's unhide all and see how that looks. So it's not too bad, but the room feels a bit too dark. Let's adjust our camera to get a brighter result. So select your camera and let's make it brighter by reducing the shutter speed to 15. Alright. Now I want to create some lights inside those lanterns here. Okay, let's select one of them. Go to the top view and create some spherical gray lights on top of the candles. Okay, right here. Let's make it larger. Okay. Now I'm going to open my lantern group. So let's open it. Let's open these little groups as well. Actually, let's ungroup them. And let's convert the bulbs to editable polys. Okay, and I'm going to attach them together. Right, and let's name that bulbs. And I'm also going to detach them from the group and close the rest. Alright, that's good. Now select your light. Disable the speculars and reflections. Go up here to the exclude button, click it, and add the bulbs to the excluded objects. And this way they will not be illuminated by this light. Shift plus move the light to make some instances. I'm gonna change the color to a more yellow. Yeah. Something like this maybe. Okay, and increase the multiplier to maybe 200 for now. Alright, I'm gonna unhide all. I'm gonna go closer here. And I'm gonna render this region. Let's see how that looks. Alright, I forgot to make the lights invisible. Go down here and check the invisible option. And retry that. So it looks like the lights are a bit too weak. So I'm gonna try and make them brighter. Let's change the multiplier to 500. Okay, I think that's a bit better. And now let's make the bulbs themselves brighter. So what I want to do is I'm going to select the bulbs and create a new V-Ray material. Actually, V-Ray light material, and set up a gradient ramp in the color slot. Okay, let's assign it and change the mapping on our bulbs like this. Right. And finally, let's change the colors a bit. So this way the center is brighter. And the top and bottom are a bit darker. Okay, let's render the bulbs up close. Alright, we need to bump up the intensity. Let's set it to 50. That might be a bit too much. Let's bring it back down to 25. Maybe even slightly lower, like 15. Right, I think that's fine. You can see a slight color transition on the top and the bottom. So let's leave it at that. Okay, cancel that. Okay. Now I'm going to delete these other two lanterns. And we also need to create a cup on the top here. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a simple profile. And adjust the Bezier handles on these points to create a cup. Alright, let's fill out some of the vertices and add the light modifier. I'm going to increase the segments to 36 for a nice and smooth result, and move the cup in place right over here. Okay, that's fine. And let's assign the brass material to it. Actually, let's assign this lantern material and change the material ID to the correct one. Okay, that's good. Right, now select all the pieces of the lantern and make a couple of copies, or actually instances. Just gonna double check these lights to see if they are excluding the bulbs correctly. So I think the autosave is going on a bit too often, so I'm gonna turn the backup interval up. Alright, and check the lights. Here's the bulbs. Let's search for the rest of the bulbs and add those as well. Okay, that's fine. Alright. And now let's render this region where we can see all the lanterns. And I think it looks fine. Alright. Let's look at the other side. And here's the thing about these doors. Since we don't have anything behind them, it's just gonna be a white blown out area, and we don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a box behind the door. Like this. Move it upwards, convert to editable poly, and move down like this. Okay. Then I'm gonna delete this polygon over here and give the box a shell modifier. And I'm also gonna assign it the white ceiling material. Okay, and let's create a light inside, just to light it a bit. Okay, just a simple spherical light over here, and move it up. That's good. And I also want to blur everything behind the door so we can't see that there's nothing inside the room. So let's make a box like this. Convert it to editable poly and adjust the size so it covers the whole door frame. It's a bit of a cheat, but you know, as long as it looks good. And let's copy the glass material. Copy it to new slot, rename to glass blurred, and assign to the box. Okay, that's good. And let's blur it. Blur the refraction to something like 0.75 maybe. And let's see how that looks. I'm just gonna render this little region. Looks okay, maybe let's turn up the brightness slightly. Let's select the light and bring it up to 100. And that should be fine. Okay. And finally, let's add some lights inside the cabinets. Here I'm gonna cheat again. I'm going to create some invisible lights. I could make some realistic spotlights, but since I don't want to model them, I'm just going to create some fake ones. So for example, I'm going to create a line like this. I mean a light like this. Make sure it's invisible, and maybe let's turn on back the speculars and the reflections. Let's move it to the top of the cabinet, like this. Let's make a copy over here and reduce the size to to match the size of the cupboard or the cabinet, right? And let's see how they look. Okay, so it looks a bit fake. Let's move the lights closer to the door, so this way they will be slightly masked by this front frame. Just move them over here. Right, I'm gonna make a copy here, rotate it to fit, and move closer to the door. Right, and finally one more copy for this larger cabinet. Okay, good. And I also want to make some lights down here below the cabinets. So let's do that. So create a VRI light. Right over here. Right. Let's make these visible. Move upwards. All right. And let's copy to the right. Okay, that's good. Shift plus rotate to make another copy. And move over here. And let's make this shorter. Okay, good. Now let's make a render and see how that looks. Okay, so that's the basic lighting setup. And I already see we need to do a lot more with the materials, but that's it for the lighting.